So I've made over 49 videos currently on the channel, and if you've noticed, I have never actually referenced or even mentioned any budget device on any of these videos. So not too long ago, I actually dived into a live session of one of Nigeria's tech content creators, Easyboye. I made some solid points about why budget phones are still relevant in 2024, relating it to the needs of the users and also the prices of these devices in 2024. But for some reasons, for some weird reasons, I still don't rate budget devices. So for anyone who doesn't know, there are three types of devices. Generally, there are budget devices, there are mid-rangers, and there are also flagships. For flagship devices, we have companies like Apple making the Apple iPhones, we have Samsung making the Samsung Galaxy S series, Google making Google Pixels. Normally these phones would cost you around $1,000 at launch. Then we have mid-rangers, basically mid-range devices. Companies like Apple making the iPhone SE series, Samsung making the Samsung A series, M series, even the FE series, I think. Google making the Google Pixel 6a, 7a, 8a. Nothing making the Nothing phones, which to be honest should be considered flagship devices because they are actually well made. And finally, we have budget devices, companies like Tecno and Infinix, Nokia, and so on and so forth, making multiple devices a year and making them as affordable as possible for the masses. Don't get me wrong, I have no problems with budget devices. I love the fact that they offer decent specs, decent cameras, decent battery life for a very and relatively low price, making it easier for the masses, especially people who can't afford these mid-range or even flagship devices. Actually, one of the points mentioned in Easyboye's live session on IG. Where I do have a problem is people not being well informed or even exposed or even educated before making choices. I have one rule of thumb, and anyone who has met me on a personal basis asking for phone recommendations has basically heard me say this, but I'm going to mention it to you guys as well. I would rather buy a flagship that came out 5 years ago than buy a budget device that came out today. I live and breathe by this rule. And of course, I do have my reasons for saying this, most of which I believe you're going to agree with me. First is the design and build quality. Most, if not all, these budget devices are made with the weakest materials. And as sad as it might be when it comes to design, these budget phones try so hard to look like flagship devices. Like literally. Second, we have performance, and due to companies trying to make these devices as affordable as possible to the masses and developing countries, basically, they cut back a lot when it comes to performance. Performance to me is one of the most important parts of a phone. And of course, there will always be something they will use to hide these downsides, especially when it comes to giving a phone heavy RAM, like say 8 more than 7 gigs of RAM, more than 64 gigs of storage, and giving the camera something like 48 megapixels or even 108 megapixels. The truth is, the type of RAM they use are what I would want to refer to as cheap RAM. They also give slow storage, and using a 48 megapixel or even a 108 megapixel camera as a tagline on budget devices should be considered illegal at this point, because there's a lot more to cameras than megapixel counts. We have other things like depth of field, dynamic range, and a whole lot more. I could go on and turn this into a whole budget killer video, but I will not for the sake of your time. But the fact remains that a flagship device that was made 5 or even 6 years ago would have better cameras, better performance, better specs in general than a flagship that was made today. Fight me on that. And if you're actually concerned more about the price of these flagship devices comparing to the budget devices, the thing is, the more flagship devices come out, the lesser the price of the older ones, like you can see from the iPhones. But of course, these are all my personal opinions. I mean no harm to anyone watching this video on a budget device, but honestly, except there's a reason to talk about budget devices, I don't think I'm going to be referencing or even recommending a budget device to anyone on this channel. Maybe things will change, I'm not sure. At the end of the day, just get yourself a flagship device, no matter how old it is. I basically use an iPhone 11. I don't really care. It works perfectly for me. But let me know what you think down in the comments. Are my points valid? What do you guys think? And yeah, as always, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.